Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you, and today it is finally time for the Asus Mars 2 SLi Madness review. Why is it madness? Because you'd have to be probably clinically insane to want to spend this money on the cards anyway, because obviously in the UK, they when they were on sale, because you can't get them anymore, they were £1,000 each. Why are they so expensive, I hear you ask? Because they've got two fully fledged 580s on there. Not to be confused with the 590, these are fully fledged, full-on 580s. Now, quite a lot of people said to me, you're going to get loads of problems with the 580s because they won't play the Mars 2s. Because where they've only got 1.5 gig of VRAM on there, they're not going to play a lot of the bigger games. Now, one thing I will kind of explain to you is your VRAM. Your games will obviously utilise the VRAM that you've got available if you've got loads of like textures and you're running a lot of AA and stuff like that. But the biggest thing that you need your VRAM for in this day and age anyway, really, is the resolution of your screen. Back in the day, we used to say like 512 meg cards were like good for up to a 22 inch, and then 24 inch was when you needed your 1 gig, but obviously we've got like 1.5 and 2 gig cards kicking about now, and even 3 gig cards now. And really that is for when you're running like a massive like 2560 triple screen setup, or even when you've got like one of the 30-inch monster resolution screens. And that's really only going to be the sort of times when you're going to be really needing those enormous buffer settings. Now, I can understand that a lot of you are going to be saying, well, if we're spending £1,000 on a card, we're not going to be running a single 24-inch screen anyway, but you'd be surprised. But anyway, what we're going to do is, because this review has been the bane of my existence, the playing with the drivers and the screens and the 3D and everything has been an absolute mission. So what I will say is make sure you click the link underneath, because that's where all of the graphs are overclocked 3D, because we've done single screen 24-inch, we've done 24-inch 3D tests, and we did triple screen 24-inch as well where possible. And I'll kind of explain at the end about the kind of trials and tribulations we've had with this, and it's not, you know what I mean, I knew this wasn't going to be the easiest thing in the world to have worked on. But what we need to do now is we're going to move on with the benchmarks, and then we'll do a few games, and then we'll come back with the conclusion at the end. I will show you the rig briefly as well, so you can see the kind of kit that we've been using to run all this. But this, it was a long time coming, and it took a long time to complete it as well. This review has been a beast, so make sure you stay tuned to the end, because the conclusion is pretty comprehensive, but it's been awesome. So I'm going to be quiet now, and we can just crack straight on with it. Right then, peeps, just a quick look at the rig that we're going to be using. Just to get it out of the way to start off with, yes, I've not got the second card plugged in. That's because I've just put the card in just so I can say it, because I'm just going to do the single card test first. And I can't be bothered to get all the power supply hooked up. But anyway, we'll start at the top. We're using a H100 for cooling with Noctua focused flow fans. We'll be running the Corsair at 100% pump with the fans on 12 volts throughout all of the tests. RAM is a Corsair GTX8 2400 megahertz RAM. We've obviously got underneath the core of the system is an Asus Rampage 4 Extreme, and then blatantly we're going to be using two Mars 2s, which are fully fledged GTX580s, two GTX580s on one card. We've obviously got two, so that's Quad SLi that we're going to be doing in total. We're using the 16 times lanes on the board, because there's two of them. Obviously the lanes are PCI Express 3, but these cards won't use any more bandwidth than the PCI Express 2 that they're designed to. You won't get any better scores just because they're on PCI Express 3 lanes, unlike people seem to think. Power supplies, we're using two Corsair HX AX 1200 watts. Now, the reason why we're doing this is because the slots for these, they're 3 8-pins, but what I've done is I've used the first power supply to power the system and the top card, and we've also put an extra PCI Express in on the board. We're not overclocking the cards massively, but this is really just kind of a fail-safe. Just because we are running that second power supply, I put this in anyway. Overclock wise, I did it quite simply. We're running the Intel 3960X, which is under the H100 at 1.4 volts, and it's just with a 4.8 gigahertz overclock on it. The memory, my CPU isn't actually that great. It won't hold 2400 megahertz for the memory, so we're running the memory at 2133, and that's at 10/11/10/27. So hopefully you've got enough details about the rig. The monitor that we're going to be using is, for the single screen anyway, is an Asus VG278, and it's a 3D monitor. It's got the 3D emitter built into the top. We've got a pair of specs as well. That's a 1920 by 1080 screen. For the games, we're going to be running the games at 1920 by 1080. Unless we're in triple screen, then it's 5760 by 1080. All of the games are always maxed out. We never run them at anything below. So we've turned everything up. Uber sampling on. Do you know what I mean? We can't turn them up anymore. And if you go to the Overclock 3D review, we've done single screen testing, we've done 3D testing, and we've done triple screen testing. So we've covered pretty much everything. So there's only one thing to do now, really. We've got the rig there. I need to put it underneath the desk now, because that's where we have it there ready for the triple screen stuff. So I'm going to get it all set up now, and then we're going to move on and start busting out some numbers and see what the benchmarks are like, because I've got a funny feeling we could be breaking some OC 3D records today. So without further ado, it's time for me to shush and get on with testing this beast. Right then guys, first test is our 3D Mark 11 P-score. And yes, that is correct, that is a single card. We have a P-score of 12,382. Now that is a single card record for us. Absolutely bonkers. I never thought I'd be seeing those sort of numbers. Now obviously we are we've got the Mars and the 2011, but it's still not to take away from it. Now just something quickly, I've got a screenshot of the 3D Mark Vantage P-score, but because we've now activated all the 3D drivers and everything, trying to rerun it for the video, it's now keep turning the 3D mode on, and it's just a glitch with Vantage. It's nothing to do with the cards or anything. So I'd have to disable the drivers to be able to do this for you, but then to have to reinstall the 3D drivers again, yeah, I just couldn't be bothered when we've already got a screenshot anyway. So there's the screenshot. I'll zoom you in a little bit more. That's don't forget, this is on the newer Vantage, which offloads all of the physics to the CPU. The CPU score would have been significantly higher if we were on the old one, but obviously we've switched over now. So yeah, we've got a P-score of 46,662, and that's with a 46,000 GPU score and a 48,586 CPU score. So they're monstrous numbers, absolutely monstrous numbers. But what we're going to do now is crack straight on, and we're going to do some extreme runs now. And if you liked those scores, you wait till we really start to stretch this girl's legs. Right then peeps, SLi 3D Mark 11 results. Now I have to admit, that score was significantly higher than even I was expecting. When we first kind of thought about this, we thought because of driver limitations and all that kind of stuff. But I was kind of hoping that if we got to about 15,000, then that would have been amazing. Because what you've got to bear in mind is it's because there's two 580s on one card and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so when this popped out with an 18,830, I was gobsmacked. Absolutely gobsmacked. That's the best 3D Mark 11 score we've ever had, and probably will have for quite some time as well. But anyway, what we're going to do now is we're going to move on now, go back to the single card in Extreme, and yeah, it's time to move on. Right then guys, Vantage SLi results. P-score 59,175. And let me remind you that don't forget we're on the latest version of Vantage, which now does always move the PhysX off onto the CPU. So the score's not being helped by the graphics cards at all there. It's just all, do you know what I mean? No PhysX bonuses or anything there because it's all moved onto the CPU. So that is a mind-blowing score. Absolutely crazy. I think it's best time we just move on with the X scores now. Okay then guys, we're on to some X scores. Don't forget this is the single card. And yeah, monstrous 4,196 for 3D Mark 11. And then if we have a look at the screenshot again for Vantage, that's an X score of 26,308. And those are massive, massive numbers for both of those. But just to show you how lunatic the numbers can get, let's have a look at the SLi results. Right then peeps, SLi X score 7,694. Let's kind of remind ourselves that that would be an amazing score for a single card P score. So the fact that we're churning those kind of numbers out with an X score is absolutely mind-blowing. It's just, it's nuts. Well, it's beyond nuts. It's unbelievable. Yeah, amazed is not the word. But it's time now to move on to some 3D Mark Vantage and back to the single card. Okay, now this one is mental. We've got an X score on 3D Mark Vantage of 40,000. Well, 40,557. I mean, that is... I can't keep saying how nuts all these scores are, but they are just absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, let's move on now, because, yeah... Let's see what this thing runs like in on Unigen. We'll go back to the single card again, and then afterwards we'll do some SLi. Right then guys, we've had to show the Unigen results slightly differently than we usually would do, just because of little quirks with the benchmarks and the fact that we've got 3D enabled, or we've had 3D enabled I should say. It's pretty much the same as with the Vantage problems, but I'll explain that at the end. But the results, frames per second, 107. Score total was 2,695. We had a minimum frames per second of 53.9. Maximum frames per second was 247.8. So that's just an open and run benchmark. As you can see, we've got all the settings and everything underneath there, so you can check it and compare it with your rig. But let's move on swiftly to some SLi madness results. Right then peeps, Unigen with Mars SLi, and oh my god, frames per second 158.8, score 4,000. Yes, you did hear that correct, 4,000. Minimum frames per second was 40.1. Maximum frames per second was 378.1. It did seem to be dancing around quite a little bit, so there was a bit of stutter there, but then again, that's to be expected. And this is just an open and run benchmark. But still, nonetheless, 4,000 score on Unigen. That's nuts!
What the hell's going on? Shit! Wake up, people! People! Wake up, for Christ's sake! What is... Wake up! Warriors! Shit! It's no good! Ah! Oh, God! Ah! Shoot them! You shoot! I'll take the levers! Come on! Wake up! We're all dead! Save me! Save me! Artyom, take my shotgun! Here! Artyom! Conserve the ammo, Artyom! Conserve the ammo! We're almost at the roadblock! There's a little bit left, come on! What the hell
The
is happening
roadblock!
here?
But the roadblock! We're there! Oh my God! Oh, what?
Over here! This'll be easy. This is gonna hurt. Arkham City is going to burn. This'll be easy, Batman. This'll be easy, fat freak!
Prisoners of Arkham City, you have given up your basic human rights because of your crimes against society. Gotham is a safer place without you. You are responsible for your own survival within this facility.
tell us where Wayne went?
I don't know. Please, if I knew, I'd tell you.
Pity. You could have saved yourself a big world of pain.
Oh, no, please. Look out! It's the back! Bad man. Gonna die tonight. City is gonna be your grave.
Not a single civvy. I don't like this shit.
Sniper! Let it go! Get him inside! Come on! Come on! Let's go! Still up! Tango! Let him stay low! Where the fuck did they come from? Keep shooting! Taking fire! Come along! They're moving! They're moving! Let's go! Let's go! Behind me! Give me a sit rep! I'm up! I'm up! I'm up! I'm fucked up, but I'm up! RPG! Mike 12! Second floor! Stay away from the fucking floor! Friendly's coming in! Friendly's coming in! Everybody light that building the fuck up! Tango's on the building! Far in parking lot! They're flanking! Moving! Right there! Right there! Coming over the wall! Right side! Contact left! Let me up, boy! Let me up, boy! Taking cover! Hold him just a little longer! Taking cover! Fire! Cease fire! Get the hell inside now! We got him. Hey, buddy. Feel this? All right. Up we go. Check your corners.
I hope Chapin's gonna be okay.
You'll be fine. He's a tough son of a bitch.
Another trimmer?
Maybe. Let's keep moving. Eyes open. It's all you. Shit. Too exposed. You gotta go cover to cover. Don't stay visible in the windows.
Like I said, I'm not that great at this, but did you see those frames per second? Who was it said that you only needed you needed a 3 gig card to be able to play this? I'll explain why he's a bit of a noob in a bit.
So then, you made it to the end. So I'm going to do it as I always do with all the other reviews. Start off with the award and then I'll explain everything afterwards. And there really is only one award that I could possibly have given this, and that's the Performance Award. Why not gold, I hear you say? Well, let's face it. The two cards in themselves would have cost £2,000. The Marses and the Republica gamers, when they do these special cards, like the original Mars, the Ares, now the Mars 2, they're an engineering exercise. It's Asus's way of saying, do you know what I mean? We can push the bar like this. We've got the capabilities to take a project like this on and just push things that little bit further. We don't necessarily need to think, oh no, we can't do that. We can't possibly put two 580s on a card. We can do this. And that's pretty much what they do. And they make them in limited numbers. Yes, the price is high because of it, because of all the R&D and stuff that goes into it. Now, I know when they make these cards, they actually shut down their 580 lines for 2 weeks just to pump these cards out. And it's crazy the type of numbers that get kind of chucked around. I mean, the amount of 580s on their own that they could have made, and the quite literally the very few that they make when they start doing the Mars 2 is just nuts. It always has been and it always will be an EPing card. And by that I mean you don't buy these if you're worried about your wallet. You don't buy these if you're in the, you know, worried about numbers and stuff like that. You buy it just because you want something so unique, nuts and all that kind of stuff in your system. There are a few drawbacks. And the main drawback throughout the whole of this testing has been the drivers. Single card drivers, you know, with one card in, it's all, do you know what I mean? It's all right. They work fine. Actually, the last two drivers on the Asus website at the moment don't actually work. And by that I mean, if you try and install it, it doesn't recognise the cards and says you can't install the drivers. No idea why. You either have to use the drivers that originally come in the box of the Mars, which are ghastly, or you have to do a little bit of tweaking with some other NVIDIA drivers, which is what I had to do, and I kind of like tweaked around with it and got things working properly. But yeah, cut a long story short, it's been a pain in the bum. Single card works with everything. Triple screen, 3D, single screen, everything straight away. As soon as you introduce that second card, that's when you literally start pulling your hair out, going grey, losing sleep. It gets very, very complicated. It took us quite a while to get SLi to work in the first place. And by that I mean we lost a day just sitting there trying to work out why it wasn't working, swapping cards round, testing slots, changing drivers. And in the end we just went, right, sod it. Literally, fresh install, did it all again from scratch and it worked. We did all the testing, awesome. Then we tried to get the 3D working, wasn't working at all. Then we tried triple screens. We could get, obviously it was all still SLi enabled and everything like that, but we just couldn't get surround enabled. Now a lot of you are instantly going to be going, it's the configuration for the cables in the back, and you would be correct normally. But I've done, where we've done it before, we knew the way it should work, and we just couldn't get it to work at all. It's literally, we couldn't get it to work this time. It just wouldn't enable the third screen properly so that you could, you know, have your full surround. It was just, so we had to abort the triple screen testing for the SLi, which was really the one that I really wanted to show you. But let me just kind of chuck some numbers out there for you, because I've had to write myself a little notepad because there's a lot of stuff here to talk about. 3D Mark 11 single card, P score 12,375. A record straight out of the box. We've never seen those kind of numbers. We were amazed before when we got over 10. So to have like 12,300, that's just nuts. Then we had an X score with a single card of 4,198. I mean, that for some cards is amazing for a P score. But then when we upped the ante a little bit, and we went up to SLi Mars 2, we went from 12,375 up to 18,830. 18,000 for 3D Mark 11. I mean, that's just crazy stuff. Then the X score, we went from 4,198 up to 7,694 for an X score on 11. I mean, come on, these are 7,000 is an awesome score for a single card. I mean, that's up there in like a single 580 territory for a P score. I mean, that's just nuts. Then we look at Vantage. So, single card, 46,662 for P. Two cards, 59,175. Don't forget, we're using the Vantage now where the PhysX gets offloaded to the CPU, so you don't get those massive bumps in scores because the PhysX is being done by the cards. But then the X score, 37,240 for single. SLi for an X score on Vantage, 50,547. Yes, 50k, 50,000 for an X score. I mean, that is just completely nuts. Now, something that everyone said to me as soon as I mentioned I was going to be doing these videos was Battlefield 3. That somewhere else had done Battlefield 3 in the past and it just didn't run. And everyone was telling me it was VRAM. Well, sadly, because I don't know because I don't tend to watch other reviewers' videos, not through disrespect or anything like that, but just because I like to keep my own style, and I like to, when I do my testing, know that I'm quite happy with my results. I don't need to kind of go off and validate them with anybody else. So that's just my way of trying to keep my head clean, and it also keeps me out of squabbles that a lot of places can get caught up in. So here are my scores for Battlefield 3. Yes, we only did 1920 by 1080, but I've explained to you the reasons why we couldn't get the SLi working with the triple screen. But, right, Battlefield 3, we'll do min-max average, single card. Minimum, 67. Maximum, 163. Average, 102. That's a single card. Add in the second card, we have a minimum of 128 frames per second, a maximum of 201 frames per second, and an average of 165 frames per second for obviously the SLi. So if Mars 2 don't work in SLi, how come I'm getting 165 frames per second on average then? And yes, that was with it completely maxed out, hitting all the buffers, everything. Now, the only thing that I can possibly think is that the other place was using a much bigger screen. And then, to be perfectly honest with you, if they were using said 30-inch screen with, you know, massive resolutions, you're pretty much stating the obvious by saying that 1.5 gig of RAM on the card isn't going to be enough. And really, I think it's insulting your intelligence for him to kind of play it like that. Because you would hit VRAM buffers or VRAM issues with any cards on that kind of screen size. The only possible thing that I can think beyond that is it was driver problems. And I mean that in the way as maybe the drivers really didn't like it being that high or anything like that. I've got to admit, obviously we've done Battlefield 3 with a single card on triple screen surround, and we were getting better results with the 3 screens in surround with a single card than the other place was with 2, 1, everything. So it's kind of one of those, it is a bit of a weird one. It could just be drivers, it could have been the rest of the kit. I don't think that it was because of PCI Express slots or anything like that, because that was another thing that got mentioned, that the PCI Express slots didn't have enough bandwidth for the 2 cards. I mean, that's just rubbish. I'm not sure if that was said. That's just something a lot of people have been coming and telling me that was said. That is complete and utter hogwash, because I've done the Mars 2 on the old 1366 platform before, and if there's one thing that there isn't a problem with, and that's the bandwidth on the PCI Express lanes, there is enough there, do you know what I mean? To the point where if you test the single card, just graphics performance on PCI Express 2 and then chuck it in PCI Express 3, it's the extra bandwidth may be there, but where it's a PCI Express 2.2 card, it's made for that much bandwidth. It's not going to utilise any more bandwidth because it's not PCI Express 3. So hopefully I've kind of like explained enough that you'll understand that PCI Express bandwidth, not an issue. The only time that you're really going to get a problem with that 1.5 gig of VRAM is because if you're using a massive screen, of course it's going to use more. But when we were doing triple screen, yeah, okay, it was hitting we were using the VRAM on it, but it certainly wasn't any kind of massive limiting factor. But if you're running triple screens and the like anyway, you probably are going to be better off, you know, investing in a 3 GB card. But that's just stating the obvious. It really is. So I'm not going to go into any more about it. Batman. Now, don't forget, Batman is still needs patching. Still not running particularly awesomely, but you know, time will come. But we tested it anyway. Single card, minimum 32, maximum 64, average 53.2. Bumped that up to 2 cards. Didn't really make a lot of difference, in all honesty. And it wasn't the cores of the cards weren't actually being used to their full capacity either. So it's obviously a driver issue there. But minimum was 30, maximum was 63, average was 58. So we had a slightly better average, but like I said, it's just the drivers weren't using all 4 of the cores in the cards. And as we know, Batman's not really, well, DirectX 11's just broken at the moment anyway. Crysis 2, single card, minimum 81, and this was quite surprising actually, maximum 101, average 97.5. 2 cards, minimum 95, maximum 101, average 99.8. Now, something we have realised, thanks to the Mars 2 SLi review that we've been doing, is that at no point did Crysis 2 go over 101 frames per second. Yeah, frames per second, to the point that we honestly think that Crysis 2 has a frame buffer. We didn't honestly think that we'd ever be getting to a point with this kind of game that we'd ever find it, but we honestly think that the frame buffer is set to 100 or 101 and just doesn't go above it. Not that really, with 100 frames a second, you're really going to be worried about going over it anyway. And then Witcher, obviously one of the most demanding games out there at the moment, an absolute crippler when it comes to graphics. It's just, it will use everything, and both the cores, sorry, all the cores literally were sat screaming their nadgers off as well. But single card minimum was 44, maximum was 86, average was 57. I mean, not being funny, we've been playing Witcher and even 580s are kind of sat around the 30 frames per second mark most of the time. So to have an average of 57 is nuts. Chuck the second card in, you had a minimum of 54. Then we have a maximum of 137 and then an average of 76. So especially with Witcher, you can see that it does, Witcher is already such an awesome game that even with all these cores and stuff, it's just grabbing everything it can possible. So it's been an interesting review. It's been a very difficult one to do. It's been one that I've got quite a few more grey hairs because of it, but I've loved doing it because it's nice to get stuff every now and then that really you have to sit there and think about, and you're trying to work out why something's not working, or you're trying to get it working better. And that's the reason why the video has been slightly later. It got right up close to Christmas and I still wanted to try and get the SLi working for the video. To the point where today I've literally spent, it's like in the evening now, it's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon stroke evening, and I've spent all day today trying to get the SLi working again. And it just got to the point where I was like, I'm not doing another install and like installing all the games and everything again. So when I did the video before showing you the results, I was showing you screenshots. So I'm really sad I didn't get to show you those, like the final gameplays, just so you can see it. But we've got all the results and everything, and all the fraps kind of like save files and all that kind of stuff. If you don't believe that Battlefield 3 does work quite that well. But anyway, the final kind of will wrap up really quick. because we've been here for ages now. So, Mars 2 SLi. One thing I would say is if you ever get mad enough to get two of these together, set it up, leave it, and don't mess about with it, because it is a pain in the bum. Second thing is, you would need to be winning the lottery, or just, do you know what I mean, need an E-pin extension to want to get this in the first place. I would honestly say, when you consider that for the price of one, you can get a pair of 580s. And it will perform better than the Mars 2. Mainly because you've then got the ability to overclock, and the drivers are better suited for the SLi of the single cards rather than the SLi of the Mars. But it's all about E-pin with this, and it's just one of those things that if it wasn't for Asus taking something like this and trying new things, where would the market ever progress? It would just stagnate. This is something different. It shouldn't be taken seriously as like an upgrade for everyone. This is just something for those hardcore enthusiasts that don't care about the wallet, just want something different, just want, you know, that kind of real niche, kind of crazy, that crazy product. And to be perfectly honest with you, if it wasn't for these crazy products, my job would be immensely boring. And to be perfectly honest with you, would there really be, do you know, it would just be the same old stuff. Nvidia have made this, right, okay. It takes people like Asus, and there's a couple of other brands that have been trying it recently, but to take those products and go, right, let's see if we can stick two of them on one. It's just those crazy things, like those crazy engineers that think, oh yeah, you know, good enough isn't really good enough. I want better. And that's where it all comes down to, really. So if you're going to be sitting there in the comments going, I'm never going to pay that much for a card, you're missing the point. Go back to your corner. Do you know what I mean? Put your dunce hat on, because you don't understand. For all of those of you out there that know this is just about what can be done, the possibilities of when people want to push boundaries, those of you, you can all go and get yourself a cookie, give yourself a Tiny Tom Logan gold badge, and sit there with a smug grin on your face that I've actually been sat here doing a conclusion for almost 18 minutes. So, I'm going to shush my mouth because you've seen enough of me. This is Tiny Tom Logan with another video for you, albeit a rather crazy one. Out.